kind of sound like basically today there may not be opposites. It says, what if both the A values are the same or both the B values are the same? So if we had the same A values and we added the equations together, would the x's eliminate? No. If we had the same B values in both equations, instead, we have the same B values and we add the equations together, would the y's eliminate? No. Well, then there's no opposites either. The A's are not opposites, the B's are not opposites. What do you think we could do? It says you can pick either equation and rename it by multiplying by something. This is the assignment I just handed back to you. We were renaming equations by multiplying by something. -1, okay? Julia says -1. Why do you think -1 would work, Julia?
Because the opposite
Yeah, so if we can make, so give me an example of a value that if we multiplied it by -1, we would get its opposite. +3. So if we took +3 and multiplied it by -1, what would happen? It'd become -3. Are 3 and -3 opposites? Okay, so we could create opposites, couldn't we? Sounds like. We could create the opposites, so then we would be able to add them together. But we can't add them together until we do have opposites, can we? They have to be opposites of each other so that they will eliminate. So how many of you had that same answer Julia did? You agree? You think we could multiply by -1? Or you have a better answer? You have something else you think is... So should we go with this? Should we try it? Okay, let's try it. If you multiply by -1, in other words, you rename one of the equations. So which equation do you want to rename here? Number 1. Which equation should we rename? The first one or the second one? Second one? That one here. Okay, so let's rename the second equation. So we're going to take -1 and we're going to multiply both sides by it. Just oh, I'm doing the wrong one. Thanks. Good catch. You know, if you're going to do the second one, do the second one, right? Okay, so we're going to take -1 and we're going to multiply both sides of the second one by -1. Remember, this is what we did on that warm-up assignment. We renamed equations by multiplying. So what's the new name? Did I do something wrong again? Yes, Michaela?
Is it -11 or does it not matter how you write it?
It doesn't matter. Order does not matter in multiplication, so you just wanted those two to trade places. Yeah, that does not matter. Okay? You can do it that way. Okay, so what's its new name? Abby?
2x plus -5y.
Okay. 11. Okay. How many of you agree with that? We can go with this is the new name for the second equation. Okay? So now we're going to add it to which equation? First. We have to add it to the other one, don't we? So in this one, we're going to add it to the first one because if you want to also put this here, it's not always going to be added to the first. You're going to add it to the other one. In this case, the other one is the first. So we're going to line up our equations. We're going to say we got the -3x plus 5y. That's the first equation that we did not rename. We're going to line up underneath it our newly named second equation. And we're going to solve it. Go ahead. Because now we're doing what we did yesterday. Now, you get to pick which equation you're going to use to solve for y, and you actually have, I don't know, you really have three choices, don't you? You have the first equation, which we didn't rename. You have the second equation, its first name, and then we actually have the second equation's new name. So we really have three different choices of a place we could use to get our y value from, okay? I'm going to use the second equation's first name. That's what I'm going to use, the one that we had before we renamed it. You do whichever one you want. We'll see if in the end we all get the same answer. What's going on over there? Anybody can see an answer I did? Woohoo! Okay, so again, you have to find, first we gotta find x in this one. That should be the first thing that happens, is actually finding x. X better turn out to be 2. I don't know if you noticed on the quiz that you got back yesterday, when we were solving by substitution, if you only got one, if I marked the problem wrong and I only gave a -1, it was because really your whole order pair was wrong. But if you get a wrong x value first or a wrong y value first, is that going to lead you to the other one being wrong also? Yeah. So if you, with your incorrect first answer for x or for y, if you substituted it in to get the other one's value, you did that part right. I was like, I can't penalize them for getting the second value wrong too, because they thought this was the correct first value. So then I only took out 1. Same thing here. If you don't get x equals 2 first, is that going to lead you to an incorrect y value? Sure it is. Okay, so if your work here would support the incorrect y value that you got, then I would be like, okay, I can only take away 1 from them not being able to do the first part right. Okay? So anybody have any questions about this one? Okay, you go to the back and you decide what you're going to do all by yourself. Which equation are you going to rename? And so it says, let's rename. You can change that to I am going to rename. You don't have to write that, but you decide. Write down which equation you're going to rename. And make a good choice. Probably have me check it out before you do to make sure that before you do the addition, set up your addition problem. Michaela, you ready to read? Yeah. So you rename the first one. Okay. If you rename the first one, you can check yours out with mine, and then you can move on. Okay. If you rename the second one, let me check it out for you. Make sure that you renamed it correctly. Okay. So if you're renaming the first one, this is what should happen. And then I would add it to the second equation because I renamed the first. Okay. Yep, and then the other thing you can do is, remember, if you change this to add the opposite, this is a negative 1, and a negative times a negative is a positive. It's not a negative. you first? Okay, so we're gonna, you guys rename these subtractions. Look back up there first. Percentages. If I'm gonna do it with the first one, well, even before we even start, we should do that. Rename the first equation, add the opposite, and then so here, what would this be? Add the opposite. What would that be? Okay. Okay. Now, how does it get to this? Did you just copy it from mine, or can you tell me how it happened? Okay, why is it y? Okay, there you go. Okay. Yeah, the negative. So go ahead now and add it to the second equation. Anybody else need different rename a different one? The second one? If you rename the first equation, you should be solving for y first. If you rename the second equation, you should be solving for what first? Still y. Still y. Because what's the only way we can create opposites is by doing what with this? If we're going to multiply by -1, can we create opposites with a -1 and a 4 on the y's? No, we can't. So yeah, that was a trick question, wasn't it? I know. Evil teacher. Okay, so everybody should have been solving for y first, and you should get -2. And then we can go back and solve for, and I'll pick my choice of equations here. I think I'm going to do x plus 4y equals 5. That's the one I'm going to choose. Okay, so I'm going to put in -2 for y. I get 13 for x. Did you anybody else? Okay, cool. So I'm feeling like great because I'm trusting you guys that you are right, and I'm not going to do a check problem. I'm going to say the ordered pair is 13. Ordered pair 13, -2. Okay. Now I didn't work through this with you, so don't pretend that you have good notes. You need to have good notes. Okay. So anybody, if anyone needs help with it, you need to get your hand up so that you make sure that you're getting your questions answered if you cannot figure it out from looking at mine. And let's get on a sheet of, I think, just let me see if you have to. Oh, there's room on here, I think. There's room on, oh, it's questionable. You decide if there's room to show all of this stuff. Renaming an equation, solving for the first variable, then solving for the second variable, and then setting up the ordered pair, which you get to decide. Okay, the reason we would solve for the y first is this, because we're going to create opposites in the x. Can we, right now, if we multiplied one of the equations by -1, would we create opposites in y's? If I took -1 times the first equation, I'd have a positive 1y. Is 1 the opposite of 4? Okay, just stay with me. I'm trying to decide, instead of worrying about the x's right now, because let's see if we can get rid of the y's. If I wanted to multiply one of the equations, let's take the first one. If I multiply the first equation by -1, wouldn't that become a plus y? A negative times a negative would be a positive. So this would become a plus 1y. And then what would happen to this positive 4y if I multiplied it by -1? It would become a negative 4y, right? If I took positive 4y times -1, it'd become a negative 4y. Go ahead and get started on your homework unless you need to listen to this discussion. 1y and -4y, are they opposites? No. So what's gonna happen is we're gonna end up eliminating the x's because that's where we're gonna create the opposite is right there. They're gonna go away and we're gonna be solving for y first. So when we're using this method of multiplying by -1 to one of them, the only one that can eliminate in this one are the x's. They're the only ones that are gonna create an opposite. Does that make sense? And then, so we solve for the y, and then we can go back and solve for our x after that. And you can use any, you can use, I used the equation that we did not rename. That just happens to be the one I didn't rename anyway. Okay. I think I need to stop my recording on this, and then I can